All right, before we get the show started, I have to give a huge shout out to a special group of individuals that I like to call my Patreon podcast producers. And you know what? They're all on Instagram, so make sure you give them a follow. Daryl at Your Level Fitness, Kaitlyn at Kaitlyn Elise, put 3 Y's in her name, Crystal at Reduced Fat Mama, Joey at Joey Losing Weight, Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey, and Amanda at Mutts_and_miles. These guys are helping this show to move forward in a huge, huge way. And if you want to join this special group of individuals, make sure you stay tuned at the very end of the show for more details. Are you Team Apple? I got to shout out all of you checking out this show right now on an iPhone, iPad, etc. In fact, nearly 70% of you are listening to me on one of these devices. It would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a review. This is one of the best things that you can do for this podcast to help get the word out. And while you're at it, leave reviews for some of your other favorite shows. I bet they would really dig it. How are you, man?
Well, how about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got home from the gym and just settling in for a night at home here.
Sweet. Same.
How's your Monday? You just got back from the gym too?
No, I got off work, picked up the kids, and just kind of been hanging out at the house. I'm waiting for the wife to get home. Usually she gets home about 5 or 6, and then I head out to do a run or something. I haven't been running much. I've been dealing with a little back issue. So I've been walking a lot.
Yeah.
Just trying to kind of stay loose without losing too much, cardiovascular strength.
Right.
So, so I'm just trying to stay a little active and just kind of, I'll wait until we're done with our thing here. She should be home by then, and I'll just head out. I'm already in my clothes, ready to go. So,
yeah, I think that's key. I love what you said about, just getting out there and walking. I mean, you got a little issue going on, but you're still moving. And I think, that could be key, finding like a modification as opposed to just kind of shutting down. I mean, unless you have like some kind of like debilitating injury that's just like got you down and out and you can't move. But like if there's a way, as I like to call like hacking it, where you can kind of just like hack it and do something different, a little bit different, but you're still moving. Like I had my first like 2 or 3 months into my journey, I was still battling things like gout and cellulitis and all these things.
Yeah.
And what I would do is like, especially on the gout thing, because that thing would like attack my knee or something. So I just go and do like sit-ups or, like some kind of machine where I'd work the upper body and I was still moving. It wasn't that great release that we feel when we do a bunch of cardio and sweat our ass off. But at the same time, You're still moving. You're still getting something done. Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah, that's key. And I've been victim of kind of losing momentum. You get hurt, and I've dealt as primarily a runner. I've dealt with a ton of issues, and if you allow yourself some time off, you lose that momentum, and then it's harder to, once you're in a rhythm, and you well know, I followed you a long time. When you're going to the gym every day and it's a routine, you kind of get used to it. You go home, you change your clothes, you head to the gym, or you bring your clothes with you, and it's part of the deal.
Yeah.
And once you stop doing that, it's so much harder to pick up where you left off. So keeping some kind of momentum is key. But I've been guilty of not doing that, getting hurt and just kind of stopping everything, feeling sorry for myself and, all that. So yeah, doing something, just to keep it going is key.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's helped me to not fall out of rhythm, because there was a while where I kind of really fell out of rhythm. I was just like working out from home, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm kind of weird in nature where like I have to like change it up like every, 5 or 6 months. I just completely just start everything different and do like different things. But what kind of helped me in the routine of getting back in the gym and showing up and not, sitting in the parking lot for a half an hour playing on my phone is I've been doing these videos now. And so I film the videos at the gym, and that kind of gives me motivation to get out of the car right away and start what I need to do with that. And it's really helped keep me focused and motivated.
Yeah, I love that stuff. The little intros you do and stuff like that. I'm not very tech savvy, so
right.
Guys that can put a little something like that together, and it's those are the kind of things that kind of draw me to people.
Right.
That almost makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people look at exercise as a chore and a punishment, and when there's guys out there like you that are, putting videos together and showing people it doesn't have to be a drag.
Right.
Like this can be like a happening. This could be fun. You could actually do something with this. And, if you have a little, wherewithal as far as video and audio and stuff like that goes, you can actually use this stuff to help other people. So
that's the whole point, brother. If I could help somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff draws me to people when I see things like that, and people are actually, making an effort to show people that, this is not something that has to be a bad thing in your life. Going to the gym can be a great thing. Look at me. I'm having fun. I'm making videos and, I'm showing you what it's like. It's not, I'm not suffering. You don't see me crying because I got to go into the gym. I'm actually excited to be here. And, so those videos and stuff like that you do, and creative, intros and stuff like that. I love that stuff.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. I've had a few people, they've reached out like, how in the hell are you like filming at the gym? Like, does that affect your routine? And actually, Jason, I've come up with a great hack for it. So like, especially on the cardio stuff, it takes me probably 5 or 10 minutes to really get like warmed up and like in the groove.
Yeah.
So that first 5 to 10, that's when I do all my filming. I set up all my different shots. Like I'll go for a minute in one position. I'll switch the camera, go to another angle, go for a minute, and then I've got like 5 or 6 different shots, and I shut the camera off. And then I actually get to like what I call the real workout. And then, I'll cut it on as I know I'm getting ready to finish. And then I'll cut it on, I'll hit record, and then you get like the real last minute of the workout. And so it's kind of this balance that I found. So there is a way that you can make it work, I think. And I found that that's like, everybody's different. I mean, some people can just get in there and just go. For me, it takes me like 5 or 10 minutes before I really can get the heart rate up and get like really cranking. So I'll just take that first 5 or 10 and just do all my filming right there, shut it off, and then get the real workout.
Yeah. That's that kind of stuff fascinates me. Again, I'm not real tech savvy. I have a couple cameras. I'm good with still pictures.
Right.
I'm a hobbyist photographer, but as far as the video, it fascinates me. All the stuff you can do with GoPros.
Yeah.
It's opened up a whole new world of video. It's convenient. It's not, it's not like 20 years ago when you had a giant camera and, actually filming anything was a chore. The cameras are so teeny tiny that with high quality that they're just so versatile now. It fascinates me, and maybe someday I'll try to work that into filming some runs or something like that. I've thought about that, taking one on a run during a big race and showing people what it's like. I actually filmed a race a couple years ago. I do have a GoPro, but I never use it. It's like the very first version of the GoPro. Somebody gave it to me.
Okay.
And I took it to Colorado with me, and I filmed myself during a race, but I filmed none of the audio. Like, I was talking the whole time.
Yeah.
And apparently I had the wrong case on it.
Oh,
so
okay.
It just goes to show you like how limited I am in my knowledge. I got some great video. I was able to figure out how to work the video, but when I uploaded it all and watched the video, it was all just crackling and the plastic sound of the case as I was, jostling the camera. Yeah. So, I mean, that shows you my extent of my experience. I got some great, like I said, I got some great video, and I made a video that I put on my YouTube thing that, and I just used like a Crystal Method song as the soundtrack, and just played music in the background. So,
yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah, so, but I love watching that stuff. I follow guys on Instagram that wear GoPros on their helmets and, climb mountains and ski and, biking and all that stuff. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Those, that for the videos I shoot, that is all I use. I have the newest GoPro, and I haven't had one in years. I had one of the older ones. I think I had the 4 silver, which was fine, but for years they've had this problem with the audio and the crackling and all that stuff. And now they've actually got it like figured out for the most part. And it's got this crazy stabilization. So there was a video on my channel probably about 2 or 3 months back in Cincinnati at the Flying Pig Marathon, and I actually had a wrist strap for my GoPro, and I was wearing that. I was actually vlogging while I was doing the 10K race, and the damn image stabilization on that thing is so freaking good that you couldn't even tell I was running. That's how smooth it was. And it works out pretty well, but you throw some music on it and you got yourself a fine piece of video.
Yeah. I've seen videos, GoPros pop up on my Facebook feed all the time. And the 7s are just ridiculous. I was close to buying one when I went out to Colorado again this year for the same race.
Right.
I was close to buying one and bringing it with me because the stabilization and the quality and stuff is so good, especially compared to the one that I have, which again is the original. I was real close to doing it, and I thought, well, how often am I going to use it? It's a couple $100.
Oh, definitely
$300 or whatever. I was like, maybe later. Yeah. So I didn't go there.
No, it definitely works well. And I've seen there's this new camera out that a lot of people, like a lot of vloggers, are using. It's called the Insta360. And it's one of those 360 view type cameras where you put it on this pole, and with the software, the pole becomes invisible, and you can like pick the angle. Like, do you want the back of you, the front of you, the side of you? It looks really wild.
I saw the first time I saw that, I was looking at a pair of sneakers that I was running shoes that I was looking at buying, and a guy on YouTube was reviewing them, and he videoed himself running in the shoes, and I couldn't figure out how he was shooting the video, because he was going from the front, like the front of him, and then he was circling around to the back so you could see the back of the shoe and how it performed and I couldn't figure out how he was doing that.
Right.
Like, you could see that he was holding something in his hand, but there was no pole. He was just like, you could see he was gripping something. So I had to figure it out. Like, how did you do that? So I think I Googled 360 video or something like that, and I found it. I thought, oh, okay, that's how. But I was so fascinated with how he did that because he was running. He didn't have someone running with him, and the video was like you said, was real stable.
Oh yeah,
and
looks like a drone.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it looked like, but it was right next to him.
Yeah.
And it kept, it would go around to the back, and he'd bring it back around to the front. It blew my mind. I like technology is so crazy now that, people just keep outdoing them. So these companies just keep outdoing each other. And, it blew. I had to figure out how he did that. It took me a little while to find it, but, I figured it out. That was wild.
Oh yeah. It was definitely good stuff. I was going to ask you mentioned a little bit earlier that I think you and I have been on Instagram together for quite a while. How did we get connected, man? Cause I talk, you know how it is, man. You can talk to so many people on Instagram and it's hard to keep track. How did we get connected?
I don't remember, but I've been following you for, it's gotta be a couple years now. Just kind of from a distance, I guess. But, when I first started, my own journey, I was on the search for, and I've been on this most recent and most successful one for 3 years, a little over 3 years now.
Right.
And when I started, I was looking for people like me, or at least that had been like me. And, I scoured Instagram and I would search hashtags, and I looked at thousands and thousands of pictures, and if one caught my eye, I'd go to their page and look, and if it was, someone that looked like they were doing what I was trying to do, then I'd follow. So I don't know if it was a mutual friend or somebody tagged you, and then I went to your page and saw.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't remember. And I follow a lot of people that I have been following since, early on, and I don't remember exactly how I found them, but a lot of people, that's how I did it. When I started, I was just looking for people that I could connect to, that I could, kind of watch how they were doing it and gain information and things that would help me. And that's probably how it happened. I saw one of your videos, or I saw, a series of pictures, and thought, this is a guy that's doing what I want to do. And it's that very well may have been it, but I don't exactly remember.
Yeah, I just pulled up your page here. It looks like we have 10 mutual people, so we can probably narrow it down to one of those 10 people.
Right.
Oh man, I mean, you got Daryl, Your Level Fitness, you got Sweaty Beast, Jack Attack, Gem of the Gym. We got a couple of people here I recognize.
Yeah, there's a couple all stars in there.
Yeah,
Gem of the Gym, Amy, and Daryl I've been following for a while, and Ryan probably for a couple years now. Ryan and I have been connected. I listened to Ryan's podcast with you. That was good stuff.
Yeah, we met up down at a Starbucks down in Charleston.
Yeah, you actually did a face-to-face with that one.
I love those, man, and those are my favorite.
I was real proud of him for kind of stepping out and doing that, because I caught him kind of at the beginning of his.
Right.
Well, I think he found me, and it might have been through a mutual something. Again, I'm not sure exactly how we connected.
Yep.
But he private messaged me, and he saw that I was running and lost some weight, and he was just looking for advice. And with him, there was a lot of there's a lot of self-doubt, and I'm not sure if I can do this or not. And he has grown so much in confidence and what he's doing over the years. I'm super proud of him. I connect with a lot of people, and a lot of people I just watch from afar, and just inspired by their stories, not necessarily have to talk to them all the time.
Sure.
He's one that I actually personally connected with, and we've stayed in touch, and we keep talking about. I've never met him in person. Still, we've talked on the phone, and
right.
He's helped me with some personal issues. The same with him, and I feel like we're connected. We've just never actually met, and we keep talking about one of these days getting together. But I hear a rumor that I think you and Amy are all going to run the Rocky race.
Oh yeah, the Rocky race. Yep, November.
There's a 90% chance I will be there as well.
No kidding.
Yeah, because I'm from the Philadelphia area. I was born and raised just north of Philly. I'm in South Louisiana now, but I was born and raised until I was 25, 26 is when I moved down here.
Right.
Yeah, I was born and raised up there, and I still have friends up there. And one of my good buddies, a guy I went to college with, lives just outside of Philadelphia, and he's been wanting me to run that race with him for the past couple years. And I think this year I'm actually going to make an effort to get down there for that, get up there for that race. So.
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, I'd love to meet up, and I've never met Amy, Gem of the Gym, Amy, and
I haven't met her either.
Yeah, so. It would be incredible to meet these people that I've come to know and oddly love, to actually meet these people in person. It's surreal a lot of times, because I have met people that I've met online, the fitness community, and I get to meet them in person. It's always so surreal, but in such a wonderful way, because you get to know these people by connecting with them and sharing a common struggle. You feel like you know them. You just have never physically seen each other.
Oh, 100%.
But every important thing about them. and just meeting is the last, like check of the box, really, in the relationship. So that would be great. I really hope I can put that together and get up there.
Yeah, that would definitely be awesome. I'm really grateful for the community and how it's brought everybody together. Back in May, we did the Flying Pig in Cincinnati, as I previously mentioned. And that one is another one you may consider if you have never been a part of the Flying Pig weekend. It's incredible. The city of Cincinnati, they show up. I mean, complete strangers. They don't know you. You don't know them. And they're on every street corner rooting you on the whole way through. And we
That's
got
awesome.
Yeah, we got a bunch of us Instagrammers up there to meet up there this past year, and we're doing it again next year. We've already got double the amount of people that are interested. They saw what we did, and now we got more people that want to come and check it out. So, of course, open invite, man. If you can swing up there next May, we'd love to have you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to keep that on the radar. I'm always looking for stuff like that, and this, running races like that, to me, I've run a lot of races in New Orleans, and I live close to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I love running in the city. I love, just the age and the history, and, the people are great. It's, it's such a unique city, and to run through it, you get to see kind of all different sides of the city. I love it, but I feel like there's so much world out there to see that I can use experiences like that to go see these places. And I spend all my time and effort, running these local races when I really should be looking for opportunities like that.
Yeah.
I've gone to Colorado and run with guys that I know, from my internet running community friends. And, I did a 200-mile relay race earlier this year in Florida with some guys that I had never met before, that I had only known on the internet. So, those kind of things, those meetups that people are putting together, those are like, I need to seek those things out. So I'm glad you said that, because I'll have to put that on the radar, because
yeah,
that's to me, that's the payoff.
Oh, definitely.
For all of these, relationship building things that you do and all these connections you make, those opportunities are the payoff. So yeah, definitely. I definitely need to keep track of that, because and that's a great time of year for me too, because here, once you start getting into May, the races kind of slack off because it's so hot. People don't organize races into like late May, June, and then through the summer.
Right.
So that's like a perfect time for me to plan an event kind of like that. So I'll definitely keep my eye on that.
Well, I'll send you, after we get off here, I'll DM you the link to the Facebook event page. We've already got one of those created. And even if you can't commit yet, you just hit interested and it'll give you all the updates and everything from here going forward.
Nice.
And wanted to ask you, because you mentioned earlier, previously lived near Philadelphia. Now you're in New Orleans. That's quite the difference in cities. I mean, you have the Southern style, you got the Northeast style. Like, I mean, I'm sure you can find pros and cons to each. And obviously you're in New Orleans, so you must probably enjoy that maybe slightly more, or unless it's a job thing that brought you there. But kind of talk about, being in the one area, now you're down in New Orleans, and what you like and what you don't like about kind of each area.
That's a great question, but I do have an answer for that.
Great.
Growing up in the Northeast, that's home. It'll always be home base for me. So the people that I love are there. But this being in the South kind of feels more like home to me.
Yeah.
And the way that I've described it, kind of the situation that really personifies the difference in culture, is that the example that I have in my pocket is that I always pull out is that when one of the streets that I lived on in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, is my hometown. I lived with my dad in a row home, and people down here don't really know what that is, but that's literally like a house that's connected to your next door neighbor's house. It's like a 3-story house. Mm-hmm. You're connected on one side with your next door neighbor, and then there's a little gap between the next house that you can walk between the two houses to get to your backyard. And then there's another set of houses. They're literally stacked right next to each other all the way up the street. So you're either connected or feet away from your next door neighbor. And one of the houses that I lived with my dad in, I did not know our next door neighbor's name. We were physically separated by like 6 feet and a fence from the yard. I didn't know their name. We never interacted.
Right.
And in the South, in the community where I'm at, again, I'm a little less than an hour's drive from New Orleans, about 50 miles southwest of New Orleans. So I'm pretty far south in Louisiana, and there's just a connection here that you don't have in the Northeast. I think people just keep to themselves. In my area, you do your thing. You let everyone else do their own thing. You don't get mixed up, in anyone else's business. But down here, there's a connection amongst family and friends that you just will never have in the Northeast. And that feels more like home to me. I know, and I live in a fairly rural area, but I know all of my neighbors' names, and we're not right next to each other. I'm actually sitting on my front porch. All the houses that I can see from my front porch, I know every neighbor's name. I know them personally. I can have conversations with them, and if they're going out of town, we can watch each other's houses, and if anything happens in the neighborhood, we're all keeping each other up to date on what's going on, but we're not right next to each other. But there's just a level of connection that people have in the South that feels, more like me than in the Northeast. Again, all of my friends and family from growing up, most of them are still there. And when I go home, my brother's still up there, and my college friends, unfortunately, both of my parents have passed. So they had both lived up there as well. But so I have family and friends that I love deeply and that still live there, and I love visiting them. But when I'm ready to leave, I feel like I'm ready to come home, which is South Louisiana. So it's two completely different community styles. But I've fully embraced living in the South. So it's definitely home to me.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling when my wife now, at the time we had started dating, and she said, "Hey, I got family in the Charleston, South Carolina area, and we can go down there. We can go to the beach. It'll be kind of fun. Get away for extended weekend, like a 3-4 day weekend." And we went down there, and I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the food as well, as before I got started on my journey. And I just love the friendliness of the people. Even the people that worked in the fast food that damn well weren't making any more than about $7 an hour, and they loved you, man. They welcomed you in. They were happy to see you. Like, I was like, this is my kind of place. Like, I could get down with this. And, we've been talking for years about getting down there. It's just not in the cards at the very moment, but I'm busting my butt trying to make it possible, trying to do whatever I can to get us down there, because I really feel like that is home. And it's like, whenever I come back up here, I mean, I have my family and it's great to see them. I love them to death. And, but I miss it down there. Every time I'm down there, I always miss it when I have to leave. And, I can't imagine living anywhere else but down there for the long haul. So I'm hoping that in the next probably 2 or 3 years that we can make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a vibe down here. The city of New Orleans. I don't know if you've ever been or not.
Oh yeah.
But, it's oddly enough, before I came down here, it was the one city. I had no plans on ever moving here to this area, but growing up, it was always the one city that I had a fascination with that just kind of seemed different than every other city. And the city, New Orleans, is just alive. Like, it's got a different vibe to it. Other big cities, just feel like tall buildings and, it just very, I don't know, cold, I guess. There's just not a lot of, I don't even know how to put it. There's just a different vibe to New Orleans. And, you can hear music around every corner, and you never know when you're going to see someone dancing. And, or, someone on the street corner playing a saxophone, just, the most amazing jazz music you'll ever hear.
Right.
Just, some guy sitting there playing a saxophone, and, there's just this wonderful vibe. I've been here. I moved to Louisiana New Year's Eve day of 98.
Wow.
And I have never gotten sick of going to New Orleans. I get excited every time still, and it's been 20 years, a little over 20 years now I've been here, and I still love going to the city. So
yeah, I was down there 5 years ago. WrestleMania was there at the Superdome.
Oh, we went to WrestleMania in the Dome. Not this past one, the one before that. My son's into wrestling.
Oh, cool.
I was huge into wrestling as a kid. I had pictures of Ric Flair and Harley Race and Dusty Rhodes, all the older guy. Well, not older. That's probably 80s.
Yeah.
But I had all the posters all over my walls. Jimmy Snuka was my favorite wrestler of all time, and so. Anyway, I was huge into wrestling, and the WWF at the time was regional, and it was in the Northeast. They filmed in Norristown, not far from where I grew up.
Oh yeah,
and so they did like small shows at local gyms, and my rival high school hosted WWF matches like every couple months.
Oh, that's awesome.
So my dad took me to wrestling match, and stars would come out. The heavyweight champion never came, but the tag team champions would come. The intercontinental champion would come from time to time, whoever it was. But you got to see these guys up close and personal. I loved wrestling as a kid, and kind of as I got to a teenager and kind of early adult, I kind of lost track of it.
Yeah.
And now my youngest son has brought me back in.
Oh, cool.
So we watch Raw and SmackDown all the time. And actually there's a Raw this month, 26th, I think, in New Orleans. We'll probably be at that, but we took my youngest to WrestleMania in the Dome. Not this past WrestleMania, but the last year.
Right. The one with Ronda Rousey's debut and
all
that. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, that was the best match of the whole card. I don't know if this is getting off track or not, but that like watching that match live, her and Kurt Angle, that was the best match of the whole card, I thought. But
she was great.
And I'm not a huge Ronda Rousey fan as a wrestler. I don't think she's great, but that match was really good.
Oh yeah. I did enjoy it.
But anyway, my youngest is big time into it. He loves John Cena.
Yeah.
And luckily we got to watch him wrestle. He's not, he doesn't hardly wrestle at all anymore, but we did get to watch him. We got to see him, and he was excited when he came out. And no, that was what it was. It took me back to my dad taking me to matches. And so that's a connection that I love having with him. Cause he'll watch old matches too. We're on the WWE network, and, he'll pull up an old match and we'll watch it. And, I love that he got back into it, and it wasn't even like me forced. I don't know how he must've watched a YouTube video or something and thought it was cool. And, we started watching it again, but anyway.
Yeah. I was down there. It was 5 years ago. It was the year Daniel Bryan won the title. I remember my buddy, he knew a guy that lived in Lockport, and we stayed out there. We stayed out there for about 4 or 5 days, and we drove 20 hours all the way to New Orleans. It was a hell of a time, man.
That's and he wasn't into wrestling at that point. He was only 3.
Yeah.
So, and I have twin 11-year-olds, and they could care less about wrestling. Now they did have a Raw after that. They had a Raw last year, and I did take my daughter, and she kind of got into it, but my older son, he has absolutely no interest. So, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And if I have one that really loves it, then I'm good with that. So,
well, look out for this new AEW coming. It's really good. Have you watched any of that yet?
No, that's the startup wrestling federation.
Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I have heard about that. Yeah,
they're coming here for their first show in October. First TV show on TNT in DC. So got my tickets. I'm ready to see it.
Oh, Come on, you're going up there to watch it?
Yep, I can.
That's
This they're going to make history. It's the first time that WWE's been opposed as far as national primetime television, so it's going to be huge. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, no, and I love that. WWE being the only game in town. Again, when I grew up, you had Mid-South Wrestling, you had the WCW came out of that, and there was what was it? It was the NWA.
NWA, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mid-Atlantic.
AWA, Mid-Atlantic. Like, there were a bunch of them, and they all had their own stars. Now just WWF is the only game in town. So I would love it if one of these other ones that's tried to get going would get a foothold and give us something different to watch. So,
well, I think this one is the one to do it. I think they got $100 million dumped into it. Tony Khan, for part of the Khan family that owns the Jaguars, he's got money,
right? Yeah,
and he's motivated, and they've been selling. I mean, they sold out this arena here in DC. This building is like a 20,000 seater building, and the configuration for this show is like 14K. They sold 14K tickets in 2 hours, and they have no television yet. Like, they haven't been on television yet. So
there's a market for. I think there's a lot of fans like you and I that remember the old or have been around long enough to remember the old stuff,
right?
And would love to kind of see that come back around. That competition is good for everyone. If it makes the WWE even better, then that's great. But I would love to see that kind of come back around again and have a couple different options.
Oh, 100%. I'm looking forward to it. We're not too far away from it. I saw their last couple of shows. They actually have 2 free shows up on the BR Live streaming service, which were phenomenal. They got John Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose. They have a lot of good stuff in their repertoire right now. So it's definitely worth, if you're a wrestling fan, and this is the last thing I'll say because I know we might lose a few people. If you're a wrestling fan, it's worth checking out, going out of your way and having a look.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
Definitely. So let's talk about your journey now, because I'm looking at your page here. You've lost over 100 pounds, dude, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anytime you lose 100 pounds, anytime you lose 50 pounds, 30 pounds, I mean, these are major milestones.
Yeah, no doubt.
So but we gotta go like way back, man. I mean, when was like weight an issue for you?
I was always kind of a pudgy kid. Yeah. I was never the skinny guy. I wasn't really, obese as a kid. I was the kid that was pudgy around the middle and had love handles. And but I was an active kid. So I lived back in the day. I grew up back in the day where you got on your bike and you rode all day long, and mom didn't let you in until the sun went down. So you had to go find stuff to do. So I literally biked all over my town. We rode trails. We were playing wiffle ball, tackle football. I was an active kid. I just kind of was always pudgy. I didn't really see a significant increase in my weight probably until I went to college.
Right.
Again, going up through middle school, high school, I was the kid with a pudgy middle, but never really, obese to look at me and go, wow, he's got a problem. I was just kind of always really soft in the middle. But when I went to college, kind of food was readily available, and a lot of it, you go to cafeteria and you eat all you want. The physical activity level went down, and kind of those compounded to kind of help me pack on pounds. And so I put on weight during college. When it became problematic really was when I got out of college. And I went to college. I have a fine arts degree.
Right.
And my first job out of college, I was a graphic designer. So I sat at a desk all day. And I literally ate all day long. I had snacks in my desk, and I sat at a desk all day, and I did nothing. I like physical activity, exercising wasn't on the agenda at all. And eating became my favorite pastime. And then being down here, this is a culture just rich with, these flavorful foods
Oh, yeah.
and everything. And as you can attest, being in the South, um, uh, everything kind of revolves around food down here. When you go to a buddy's house to watch football, there's going to be a ton of food. If you invite some friends over, it's going to be for dinner. Um, if you go out at some point, you're going to stop and eat somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
So every activity really in the South, food is going to be at the center of whatever you're doing. It may not be the reason you're getting together, but if you're getting together, there's going to be some food, and it's going to be rich and delicious, and there's going to be tons of it.
Yeah.
And you can eat all you want. So that was kind of the perfect storm for obesity for me. So I had a job where I didn't ever have to move, hardly ever. And then, I had moved to this area of the world that just, allowed me to be decadent with food. And, so probably within 3 or 4 years of moving here, I'd put on well over 100 pounds,
Right.
just being sedentary. And that's really kind of when it became a problem. Really that's after that really was the first time I ever kind of realized that this was an issue.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't do much about it, to be honest with you, when all the weight came on. There wasn't a ton of incentive for me to do much. It wasn't until I left my graphic design job and started working at a Chick-fil-A, that it became problematic for me, because now I went from sitting at a desk all day to standing for like 8 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
And so by the end of a shift, my back was killing me. My feet hurt, my legs hurt. And I guess eventually over time, I developed a tolerance to that. But I knew that it was an issue and I need to get it under control. I mean, I was really big. I was, 330, 40 pounds, in the early stages.
Right.
And, so, kind of my wife and I, over the years tried a couple things to lose a couple pounds, like everyone does. I can lose a couple pounds. And
sure.
we did low carb, early on after we got married. We got married in 2001. So both of us tried low carb, and it worked for a while, but, it was pretty effective, but it was, I couldn't stick to it. Like, I was not going to live the rest of my life without bread and potatoes. So, I would make some gains and then get comfortable with what I was eating and go right back. It's the same old story. Everyone has that story that's been in this journey.
Yes.
Everyone has the story that, oh yeah, I lost weight and then put it on and then some. Yeah, I'm the same guy. And, I did the same thing over and over and over again. So, it's been a lifelong progression, to get to the point where I'm at. But that I never found any success until about 3 years ago. So I had short-term success, never stuck, until about 3 years ago.
And now the 330, 340, was that kind of your highest, or did it go higher than that?
No, I was a bit higher than that. I think 3 years ago, I probably was in the 350, 360 range.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know exactly how big I was, but, I know I didn't weigh myself 3 years ago. I think it was in end of June, maybe. I decided this is it. I'm making a change. Something has to give here. And, so I knew at that point, based on what I had known that I weighed before and how my clothes felt that I was wearing, that I probably, like, my clothes were a bit tight. Like, my fat clothes were a bit tight.
Right.
So I know that I was in the, like the 350, 360 range. Again, I don't know exactly, but that's where I'm guesstimating I was 3 years ago when I started.
And when you were putting on all this weight, so were you just like, I know when I talk to a lot of people about this, usually it's like the fast food thing. You're coming and going, you're getting the fast food. It sounds like with you, it was a combination of stuff at your desk. And were you tearing up some stuff at Chick-fil-A too? Cause I know if I was old Gary working at Chick-fil-A, you better believe I would have been tearing up some of Chick-fil-A.
Well, here's the thing. And I think a lot of people, you don't get to be 350 pounds by accident. You really have to work at it.
It's very true.
You have to, like, it's work to stay that big. And so you have to eat more often than people think that you're eating. So I think my biggest downfall was secretive eating. I would eat stuff when, normal size portion stuff when people were around, but really my downfall was stuff that I would eat when people weren't looking. When I transitioned to Chick-fil-A, I didn't have an issue with the food. Of course I was eating chicken biscuits and like 2 chicken biscuits and egg and cheese and hash browns and extra food. But what was happening was what really kind of did me in was I would eat my my regular food during the day. But I would leave, and the Chick-fil-A that I worked at, I'm at a different one now on a college campus. But at the time, the Chick-fil-A I was at was right next door to an Arby's.
Oh, man.
So when I would leave work, I would stop at Arby's and get like 3 roast beef sandwiches and eat them in the car on the way home. Or, and I have, young kids. So my routine for the last 8-9 years has been to get off work, go pick them up in the car line. So I would get off work and I would stop at Burger King and get a full king size meal and eat it in the car while I'm waiting for them to get off.
Oh yeah.
And then I would eat a whole nother meal and then with snacks in between. So really the things that did me in were the things that I ate in secret. And people don't like to admit that they do that, but when you get to be that big and able to sustain that kind of weight, you have to eat more than people realize that you're eating. So admitting that I was doing that was really hard and it was shameful. Yeah. But kind of putting that out into the light and saying I have done this. I have gone somewhere and, on the way to wherever I was on the way to the grocery store, if my wife sends me to the grocery store for something, I'd stop at McDonald's to get a double quarter pounder with cheese to eat while I was on the way and then come home and I've eaten something and then I'll eat the dinner that she's making.
Oh yeah.
It became, really shameful and, a big hurdle in getting over that was admitting that I was doing that, kind of putting it in the light and just kind of eliminating that from my life. But the food at Chick-fil-A really wasn't the issue. It was all the other food outside of where people thought I was eating was the issue.
Yeah, I can definitely relate, coming home on the way home, sitting in a car for an hour and just stopping every day, usually McDonald's. But it's always about that sneak eating, as I like to call it, and
yeah.
At my office, they used to cater in lunches and I'd go back for thirds, fourths, fifths, somebody's birthday, they bring a big ass cake. And when the whole room is cleared out and there's still some cake left there, well, let's go get another piece or let's take this
get real good at that.
Yeah. Let's take the spoon and scoop up the excess, frosting that was left behind by the more health conscious folks. And, I'm not kidding. I'd go in there and I'd see,
I know I'm laughing because I know. Yeah.
I'd see that damn frosting because you'd have like most of the people that was in my old office, they were, super health conscious, very thin people, and they would like scrape a lot of the frosting off. And I was the one I'd call myself the cleanup man. I'd go in there, go around that edge and just scoop that sumbitch up like a bulldozer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You're cleanup. That's right.
Yeah.
And you're always the guy that if there's leftovers, they give it to you.
Yes.
And of course you're like, well, yeah, I mean, if no one else is going to eat it, I guess I'll take it home. I'll eat it later, and
Yeah.
it never survives the car ride,
Never.
Yeah,
Never.
it doesn't, you're not going to share that with the wife if you could eat the whole thing yourself.
Hell no.
But but you become the go-to guy. If there's stuff left, Jason will take it home. I know he likes that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I would keep stuff behind a lock and a key too, because it would keep me from going in there every few minutes. Like in my office right now, I have like different little snacks, more healthier type snacks, but I have them locked, and I have them almost like a meal prep where, like, if it's a big bag of something, I break it down to the count of whatever the recommended is, whatever the calories, 10 chips or whatever.
Yeah.
Throw them in a baggie, and I'll put those like 10 or 15 baggies, how many I get out of the bag, put it in this locked compartment. And a lot of times I end up forgetting about it. So those times where I'm bored and I think that I'm hungry, but I'm really not, sometimes I'll end up forgetting to eat. But if I want it, it's there. And I never tell myself, no. It's more of, if I really feel like I need something, then, here's a little bit, because if you outright tell yourself no, you're going to get very angry. You're going to get very anxious, and that's not good for anybody.
Yeah, that's a key too. And that was a key for me in one of the changes that I made, is that, and anyone that's been down this road can attest, when you restrict yourself too deeply and make it a punishment, it never works. Never. If you tell yourself, you're not allowed to have that, your subconscious mind kicks in and says, you're allowed to have that, dadgummit.
Yeah.
You can have that extra piece of cake. Who says you can't have an extra piece of cake? You eat that cake, dadgummit.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. Anyone that has been down this road can attest to that. If you're telling yourself you cannot have it, then you're going to have it at some point.
Yeah. The only thing, Jason, that I said I could not have, like 100%, was just McDonald's. And that's just because that was like a straight up addiction problem. Like I had a serious problem with that. And so I just found, alternatives, and I found myself eating less of it.
Well, I'm speaking in dietary. Well, I guess if you're trying to pick a diet in terms of those, there are like, I don't eat meat and dairy.
Right.
And so I don't eat it. But it's because that's the way I choose to eat. It's not because I tell myself I can't have those things. I can have those things.
Yes.
But just like you're making a conscious decision not to have them. If you're on a diet where you say you cannot have this, then eventually you're going to find your way to it. You're going to find a reason to have that. But if you're going into it consciously making a decision and saying there's a reason that I'm going to avoid these foods, then there's something different that happens in the mind, at least to me. When I stop saying I can't eat meat, I can't eat potatoes and bread, I'm not allowed.
Yes.
When I gave that up, it gave up saying I can't have those and started saying I'm choosing to eat these for a reason, I could eat whatever I want. I'm not allergic to any food. I'm not limited. I'm making choices. So I think making choices is way better than restricting yourself from any particular food item, whatever that might be. But yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. If McDonald's is your trigger, then absolutely. But you're making the conscious decision to say, I'm not eating that. You can eat it if you wanted to, but you know what's going to happen if you do.
Oh, definitely.
So you're making a conscious decision not to do that. And I think that's the difference between an unsuccessful choice and a successful choice as far as the way you're going to eat.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, no meat in New Orleans. That's pretty bold, my friend. You're a brave man.
It's daring in this area of the world. But I didn't grow up eating crawfish and shrimp and stuff like that. This isn't really the barbecue capital of the world or anything like that.
Sure.
I don't miss it that much. The meat part of it. It's, again, it's when you make a conscious decision that this is for a good reason, and I know why I'm not doing it, the hardness of the decision kind of goes away. And, I came to the realization, because my fallback was always low carb.
Yeah.
I would lose weight really quickly on low carb, but I could never stick to it. So it was always, always successful in the short term. I would lose tons of weight. I did like Biggest Loser type gym promotions and stuff in the area.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple. There was one of those Biggest Loser contests that one of the local gyms had. I lost like 75 pounds in 2 months.
Wow.
So, oh yeah, I was hardcore.
Damn.
And it was low carb. But as soon as I got off of that diet and went back to my normal diet, it all came back. So there was something about that diet that just didn't work for me. And it would never be something that I could sustain for a lifetime. So the way that I worked myself into no meat, no dairy is that a buddy of mine that I knew that had also been going up and down with his weight came through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A one time, and he had clearly lost 75, 80, 100 pounds since the last time I had physically seen him. And I was like, oh my God, what'd you do? And he's like, I went plant-based. No way, not you. He's like, yeah, I did. He said, we need to go to lunch and talk about it. I've learned a whole bunch of stuff. So we went to lunch. And so a lot of the stuff that he said made sense to me. And I was at a point in my life where I was like 350, 360 pounds. I had lost my dad at that point from coronary disease. He died from congestive heart failure. And so I knew what was coming down the pike for me. Yeah. And something had to give. So, could I have gone back to low carb and lost weight? Absolutely, no doubt. But I knew after having failed at it for 4 times that it just wasn't the answer for me. So this was worth a try. Why not try it?
Yeah.
And so I did. I made a commitment and I said, I'm going to do it and we'll see what happens. And the weight came off and it gave me energy, and I was able to start running, and I started running these races, and all of this stuff I've done without eating meat and dairy, and it's been sustainable for me. So, it is hard. A lot of times in social situations, I went and had lunch with my pastor this past yesterday, and they didn't know that I was plant-based. They hadn't realized that I didn't eat meat and dairy. So yeah. They were trying to figure out after we got to the house. They're like, "Oh, you don't eat meat?" I'm like, "No, I don't eat meat or cheese." And they were making homemade pizzas. Oh. So they were. So my pastor ended up making me like a small piece of a pizza that had no meat or cheese in it. And so in social situations, sometimes it's not quite that easy, but it's just a decision. Like if you went somewhere and everyone was, had picked up McDonald's on the way, just because they're all eating McDonald's doesn't mean you're going to stop and eat McDonald's.
Yeah, no way.
You've chosen not to eat McDonald's. So probably you're going to go without, right? Or you're going to find something else.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely find something else.
It's basically the same way. Yeah, it's tough, but at this point, 3 years in now, I'm usually prepared for something like that. Either I'll eat before I go, or I'll pick something up on the way just in case they don't have something that I can eat. Sure. And it's never an issue for me. People can eat whatever they like. I have had my struggles with food, and I will continue the rest of my life probably. So I am the last person that would ever be judgmental about what anyone decides to eat. I just know what works for me. So this works for me. I feel good doing it. And whatever anyone else, feels like is best for them, I feel like, my choice is a good one. And if you ever want to try it, if people want to ask me questions about it, and people do, I'm more than happy to answer them. But if you don't choose to eat that way, it's not like I won't be your friend or talk to you.
Sure.
Life's about choices. And as you well can attest, you can't do the work for anybody else. Like I can't make you choose what you want to eat. You can't make me choose what I want to eat, but we can all support each other.
Oh, of course.
As long as we're moving towards better, then that's the thing. I will tell you the benefits of what I think the benefits are that I'm doing. And you can use that information however you like. If it's not what's for you, it's not for everybody. And I understand that. So, you can. I've sat next to people that eat a big old steak and fried chicken and stuff like. Doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
It's all about personal choice. But as long as we can all move towards better, then that's the thing.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the community. I mean, everybody's got their different ways that they go, different diets, different plans, and we can all kind of come together for a common goal. And I know that we all have our ups and downs a time or two, and you've been on this for about 3 years now. Have you ever run into an issue where you've ever like fallen off, or have you been like straight up 3 years, no meat in 3 years?
Yeah, well, that's not true. I have, about a month in, my family and I went to Florida on vacation. We were in Florida for a week.
Yep.
And I was about a month into it, and I hadn't eaten any meat or dairy. And while we were there, I said, you know what? I've done really well. I'm going to eat some seafood while I'm here.
Right.
And so I figured, yeah, it's a pretty good compromise. It's not a big old hunk of steak. And it's not anything super decadent. So I had gotten a plate that had like steamed vegetables and some rice and a piece of fish. And then I also had a bowl of seafood gumbo, which, I mean, to me, that wasn't really all that decadent. And I got so sick on the way back without being too foul. I ended up, it all ended up coming back up. But
right.
Yeah, at that point, I was done. Like, I figured at that point, my body had already started adjusted, and this was just a little bit too much. I felt so sick. And that kind of cured it for me. I have not had another piece of meat. And I haven't had cheese or anything else like that since then. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. So it was like a lesson learned for me. The body adjusts quickly. The body is always looking for a way to heal itself. And if you're doing the right things, your body will make changes that you don't even realize. And I think being away from my cheese was my downfall, really.
I can imagine.
More so than meat. I would snack on cheese. I would buy giant pieces of cheese at the grocery store and cut off a big old hunk and just eat cheese, as a snack. So cheese really was my downfall. And, I couldn't imagine eating. I was telling someone today, someone was asking me about what I ate. And, I told them that I will occasionally get something if we're out and about. I'll get a bean burrito from Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Because it's just beans and a tortilla. I don't remember if they had. I think they put cheese on it, but you can ask them not to put the cheese. But I got a burrito one time, and they had put cheese on it, and so I took a bite and I ate it. And the next bite, I could taste the cheese, I was done. Like I spit it out, and it was so rich and decadent that I couldn't even eat it. And so my taste buds have completely changed. And I think even if I wanted to start eating it, it would really be work for me, because I'd have to fight through a lot of uncomfortability, with the food in order just to eat it. So I think at this point, and I have no desire to do that. Everything is working for me.
Yeah.
And I don't have times where I drive through a McDonald's or drive past a McDonald's and think about, well, I could get a double quarter cheese. It never crosses my mind anymore. So, I don't have to fight those same urges that I had just a couple years ago.
Man, I just listening to your story about this, and I've had many different plant-based people on here that have done the plant-based diet, and I got to tell you, I'm kind of like, I don't know that I could ever like fully do it like full time. I mean, I think we could do anything we put our minds to, we really put our minds to, but like, I've almost got like an inspiration now for like a YouTube/Instagram TV video of like 7-day challenge plant-based diet. Like I want to see like, what happens. I'm fascinated. I did have the Impossible Burger when I was in Cincinnati. Daryl and I actually did a video. It's on my IGTV and YouTube for those that want to check it out, we actually tried the Impossible Burger, and that was pretty phenomenal. I mean, I couldn't tell the difference.
I've had the Impossible Burger, that particular burger, and I've had other kinds of plant-based burgers.
Yeah.
Impossible Burger is almost too much like meat for me. If I had it readily available, I'd probably eat more than I should of that. I'm glad that it's not.
It's like a trigger.
I think Burger King is going to be serving that full time at all the restaurants soon. I think I saw that somewhere.
Yes.
But you're right. The Impossible Burger, if you gave it to somebody without telling them it was a plant-based burger, they probably never know.
It bleeds.
It was so close. It was so close. But there's a lot of substitutes like that, and that really for people that are interested in a plant-based life and say I can never do that. There are a lot of companies now that make plant-based meat substitutes. They're not a lot of them are heavy with oils. So they're calorie dense.
Yeah.
But if it helps you transition to eating more plants, even if you can't give up meat or dairy, I think just adding more plants to your diet and not just being all these calorie rich foods, just adding some calorie dilute foods helps balance things out. And a lot of people could never do it. They're just not that motivated. I knew I was desperate, really. I mean, at 360 pounds, I was desperate.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to die young. So, desperation pushed me towards something that people see as radical. But for me, it really came out of desperation. So, if people aren't super motivated to do it, probably would be a hard decision.
Yeah.
But even if people just added more fruits and vegetables to their diet, I think they would see a huge improvement. Even if they didn't cut out all meat and dairy, if they added some more to their diet, I think people would see a big difference.
Well, that's definitely fair. I mean, this year alone, I gave up pizza, chocolate, and alcohol, and I've definitely subbed out a lot of the chocolate with things like bananas.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
And let me throw that in real quick in case.
Sure.
Just as some information, there's a lot of misinformation about fruit specifically. Since you said bananas,
yeah,
people for years and years have thought, oh well, fruit is really sugar dense. You can't eat a lot of fruit. Like you shouldn't eat a lot of fruit because there's a lot of sugar in fruit. But what people don't understand is naturally occurring fruits are different than man-made. The sugars in fruits, the like naturally occurring sugars in fruits,
right,
are processed different by the body than man-made sugars or processed sugars are. Because of the fibrous nature of fruit, the body breaks them down and uses the energy within a piece of fruit a lot differently than if you were to eat a donut or a candy bar. So you can eat a ton of fruit if you wanted to.
Sure.
I know guys that eat 10 apples a day, but there's a lot of misinformation that has been fed by, different food companies throughout the years that, it's not really true. Research is now showing that you could eat fruit, just exclusively fruit, and you'd be completely healthy. So, you're saying that you'll throw a banana in there and stuff. You can eat 2 or 3 bananas. I just wanted to there's a lot of information that I've uncovered that has really it keeps reinforcing my decision. And that's one of those things. Since you mentioned fruit and that popped out at me, I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Oh, definitely. And bananas are probably my favorite of that bunch too, because they're the most low effort. You just peel off that skin and you just eat it, and it's great. Apples, you could bite into them, but typically you want to cut them up. And orange, you got to peel all this crap. Like I like a banana, you just peel it open and just go to town. It's the best.
I have a banana you're saying that I have a banana carcass sitting right next to me on the table out here. I ate a banana before we came on, just as a little snack, because I wasn't sure how long I'd be out here. So I just grabbed a banana. Like you said, 2 seconds it's open and I'm eating it. So I love that. Right. Yeah, Our whole family loves bananas. Yeah, we go through a lot of bananas in the Harper household.
I used to tear them up on some banana splits back in the day when I was my big ice cream heavy loving self.
Well, that made it healthy because there was some fruit in there.
Yeah.
You balance if you put some cherries on top, some some pineapple. That almost made it a health food. At least I used to rationalize it that way.
Sure.
Maybe not so much anymore.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
The other question I'd have about the plant-based is like, when you got started on it, how hard was it? I mean, when you think like just diets in general, like you're like, okay, this is the route I'm going to take. And you're like, okay, day one, I'm doing this and this. And there's like a transition. And did you have a lot of difficulty making that transition? Because as you mentioned earlier too, that's a very radical change.
Sure. I didn't. I just kind of jumped in. It was a long road for me too. From that lunch that I had with my buddy that I told you about to the point where I made the decision was probably 6-8 months. I didn't have lunch with him and automatically think I'm going to go plant-based. Like I'm a knowledge gatherer. And I think that has been a big part of my decision as well, is that before I never knew what food did to me or for me. I would just eat unconsciously, not thinking about the damage that I could be doing. But when my buddy Dan that I had lunch with, he actually connected me with another guy that, I consider a close friend now. His name is Josh. He was kind of the pioneer in our area, our little corner of Louisiana here, as far as going plant-based. And this guy's, has done. He's known pretty much nationwide now. He's been on the cover of Runner's World magazine.
Wow.
As a plant-based runner, he's lost like 230 or 40 pounds.
That's insane.
Doing a plant-based diet. But the point is that he turned me on to a lot of information. There's a documentary on Netflix called Forks Over Knives. That was a big one for me. There's a lot of information in that. There's another one called What the Health, is also on Netflix. A lot of information in that. And then books, there's a lot of books and stuff, but I gathered a lot of knowledge before I made the decision, and everything that I read made sense to me. So when I made the decision, it just made sense. It didn't feel like jumping in to uncharted waters. I actually had some people around me, Josh and some of these other guys, that had been down the road, and I had some people willing to share knowledge and things like that, were willing to, lead me towards resources that would answer a question that I might have. And so when I actually made the decision, it didn't feel all that hard. I just gave up the meat and the dairy.
Yeah. You just went into it.
Cold turkey. Yeah. I just there's a picture of me. If you go back far enough, there's a picture of me on Instagram of eating a piece of watermelon. And it just one day I told my wife, I'm done. I'm not eating meat and dairy anymore after today. And that was it. It wasn't, well, I'll cut back on the consumption. I just made the decision because everything up to that point just really made sense. And so I figured it's worth a shot. And, if I just tiptoe around it, I don't know that it'll do me much good if I try to stay in my old eating habits and just do a little here or there. To me, it just made sense to try it and just go in and see what happens. And immediately I saw results, and I felt different. I felt better. And it just, everything just reinforced what I thought it might be. So the transition was really not that difficult for me.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I know it can definitely be difficult for some, and I really am appreciative of your time here. And before we get out of here, I definitely want to talk about how you got into the running and everything, because I know it's a big part of your day-to-day routine. So I'd love to hear, how that became something that you grew to enjoy. Because I'll tell you, as somebody who's done, I've done 2 5Ks, a 10K. I do not love running, but I do it because it's hard and it's challenging, and I like that. But I definitely do not enjoy the actual act of running. So tell me about how you got into it and how you grew to love it.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't know a lot of people that actually love to run, to be honest with you. I know a lot of runners but it's not the most enjoyable of activities. Just to kind of throw that out there. But my the same buddy that I had lunch with, Dan, he shortly after I started going, I went plant based. He challenged me to sign up for a half marathon with him. So my very first race was a half marathon, which is 13.1 miles. If there's anyone listening that doesn't know, that's a silly race to get into as your first race. That is not recommended for most people, especially. And I was still close at that point. The race was the day before Halloween of that year, and I was probably still close to 300 pounds when I ran that race. But I had, I'd logged a lot of miles. They were slow, but I had made some progress, and I continued to lose weight doing that. But just participating in that race and being in that atmosphere, I had never done anything. I'd never played any team sports. I was never anything close to an athlete. But being in that atmosphere, and you can probably attest yourself, there's just something different about that. Being in a race.
Oh yeah.
And the atmosphere that goes with it. Like you said, flying pig, there's people cheering you on. You feel like an athlete.
It's next level for sure.
Yeah. And it's those experiences that, like, I was hooked after that. Like, when is the next race? And, I signed foolishly. I signed up for a full marathon for the following March, and I didn't run the marathon. I got to the day before the race, and I knew I wasn't ready to do 26 miles. So I ended up running another half marathon there, and that was the Rock and Roll New Orleans half marathon. And but every one of these races that I went to, it just kind of reinforced the fact that there was an inner athlete in there. And as challenging as running can be at times, and it's tedious and it's boring at times, it's hard, especially if you're a big guy. It's physically demanding.
For sure.
But there's just, for me, it makes me feel like I'm better than I ever thought I could be. At this point now, I've done 3 full marathons. I've done a 50K, which is technically 31, but this race that I did actually ended up being 32 miles. I participated in a 200-mile relay. I think 10 half marathons. I've been to Leadville, Colorado, and I did the half. It's called the heavy half. It's actually 15 miles. And there's between 2,000 and 3,000 feet of elevation gain for that race. I've done that 3 times, and it's these things are physically demanding and they're hard, but at the end of it, you feel like you can do anything. And it does, for me, like, the draw for running is that you can do it almost anywhere.
Yeah.
And it requires very little equipment. A decent pair of running shoes. If you get into running, my biggest advice is don't skimp on the shoes. Definitely get a pair that is right for you, and don't go cheap. Because it's really the only thing you need. But it's easy to do. It really doesn't require a lot of skill. But the payoffs for experiences like that, and talking about doing, going to do Flying Pig with your buddies, or going to do the Rocky Race in Philadelphia. These things are like huge deals. And in the life of a guy, that spent the majority of his life out of shape, fat, and then a large portion of his adult life as an obese man, to be involved in races and things like that, it just makes all of the miles that I'm out there worth it. Because I feel like the best version of myself when I get to do things like that. And people may still look at me because I'm not, 210 pounds still. I still have work to do. I'm not perfect by any means.
Sure.
But
who is,
I'm
though?
still, yeah, no, nobody is.
Yeah.
And that's not to get off the running topic too far, but that's a good point as far as dieting goes, is that, just to touch this real quick, is that, people go into a diet change expecting perfection, and
Yes.
anything less is a failure. And that's so far from true. If you can get yourself out of that mindset that I accidentally slipped up and ate something that I shouldn't have, well, I've ruined it all.
Yeah.
Daryl talks about that a lot, and I love that. The fact that your level of fitness, by the way, in case you don't know which Daryl I'm talking about, anyone listening.
Right.
Yeah, he talks about that a lot, that, one bad dietary mistake does not mean that you have ruined your diet. It means you made one decision. Now go back and make a good decision. It doesn't ruin anything. You have ruined nothing. One meal will not set you back. One bad day really will not set you back. One day of decadence does not ruin a month or a year of hard work. So if we can get people out of that mindset that, I have ruined something, you have not ruined anything. Expecting perfection isn't realistic. So expect to be imperfect in this. And it takes a lot of the pressure off. Anyway, I got off on a tangent. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Throwing fire, man.
Yeah, I think that's important for people that are struggling. And I was victim of that. And I think anyone that's been through a long-term weight struggle has been a victim of that, of thinking they're a failure because they ate a candy bar on the sneak, or, they had a burger when they probably shouldn't have had a burger or whatever. Get over that. It's one decision, Yeah. You can follow that up with 10 consecutive good decisions, and that's awesome. If you're making more good decisions than bad, then you're on the right track.
We're only human, Jason. That's the facts. Yeah. We're only human.
Absolutely. And none of us are perfect. But to finish up the running thing, it's just, it gives my life more meaning than I thought it would on a personal level. I have a lot of, family pride and a lot of things that I can be proud of in my personal life, but individually, it just makes me feel like the best version of myself. And so, as hard as it may be sometimes to lace up and get out there, it's all worth it. I've now signed up for my hardest race ever. I'd signed up for a 60 miler in December.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, but it felt like the next natural progression. I was actually looking for a 50 miler, and this is the next best thing. It's 3 20-mile loops of the same trail. It's in Louisiana. So you go out, you do a 20-mile loop, and then 2 more. There's all the way up to a 100-miler. I know one of my buddies is going out to attempt his first 100-miler. So I'm going to go out and see what happens. And, if I don't make it 60 miles, then I will give it my best shot. But I will leave there knowing that I did my best. And, just for me, running, I've never been a gym guy, and I admire guys like you that can go in the gym and hit the circuits and, making the progress like that. I've been, a member of a gym multiple times, and I would start out on fire and just kind of lose it. And running again is the one thing that I've been able to maintain. And my love just, hasn't gone away. It's ebbs and flows as well for me. I don't run every day. And I've gone weeks without running. But I always find my way back, and I'm getting back into a groove, and I have to. Between now and December, I have a lot of work to do. So, running just has given me a lot of personal satisfaction, and it's, the payoffs of those races are just, you can't describe it to someone that's never been out on the course and run across the finish line doing something that you never thought you'd be able to do, and having people cheer for you and stuff is just incredible.
It's one heck of a high. It's like you said, it's hard to describe.
Yep. Yeah. You can't describe crossing the finish line until you've done it. I love watching people's finish line videos and seeing pictures of the radiant smiles. And, it doesn't matter if it takes you all day or if you're one of the fastest people in the world. Everyone kind of seems to have that same smile at the end when they realize that they've done something that they didn't think they could do. It's the best.
So true, my friend. So true. Well,
Yep.
look, I could go all night with you, man. We're having a hell of a conversation here. I love it, but at some point we have to wrap it up and tell people. I know. Well, all this means is we're going to do it again. So that's what this means.
Yep. Let's do it.
Tell people where they can find you on the gram.
On Instagram, my Instagram name is j.ha. Oh, I changed it. It used to be real easy. It was KUTZAAA, but
yes.
I recently changed it to j.son.harp-r.
Okay,
I think that's it. Is that it? Did I get it right? Because I never searched for myself. j.son.harp, HARP.r. It's Jason Harper is basically what it ends up being. I shouldn't have changed it. It was a lot easier the other way.
You just wanted to make it harder for people to find you. That's what it was.
Yeah, no, that's not the case. I didn't want that to happen. Maybe I need to change it back because I don't want to not be found. So I guess that showed me something there. If I get nothing else out of this podcast, I think I've learned a valuable lesson not to mess with your Instagram name.
Well, I think a lot of people knew. I know people that that we know knew you as the other name. And how did you pronounce that name?
It's Kudza.
Kudza. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's an odd choice. It came. My college name is Kutztown. KUTZ.
Okay.
TOWN. Kutztown. And so I did years and years ago. I helped out with my youth group at my church. There's a lot of teenagers, and they started calling me that for some reason. I don't know. I can't even remember the origin.
Yeah.
But anyone that's internet savvy knows that like a lot of the basic names have been taken already. So when you're trying to get an email of your name, it's not available. JasonHarper@gmail.com is not available.
I can imagine.
So, anything like that you try to sign up for with your name is just at this point, or even back when I started using it, it just wasn't available anymore.
Sure.
So that was something that was always available. The Instagram tag or an email. I have a Gmail. Anything that required a unique name like that, I used it because it was always available. So, it really doesn't mean anything. It was a silly nickname that a bunch of teenagers gave me many years ago.
Right.
But it's unique enough that I can use it at all times, and no one has ever thought to use it. So, I don't even know. I'm probably pretty sure that .com is still available. I may need to jump on that, but if I ever decide to do anything. But anyway, that's where it came from. But it was a lot of people have asked that, especially now that people try to contact me. They don't know how to pronounce it, and they don't know what it means. It's kind of weird. So I think that's why I changed it. But the Jason Harper thing just hasn't worked out either. So
it might be a conversation starter. You never know.
It has. As I've gone for about 3 minutes here about it. So yeah. Hot topic.
Well, get out there on the gram, folks, and check out my man Jason here. It's been an absolute blast. Would you believe we've done nearly 90 minutes?
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh man, you got some trimming to do, buddy. That wrestling stuff might have to go.
No, it all stays, man. Everything.
I appreciate that. No, that's a great sign of a great conversation. I love it.
Yeah, I don't cut anything. I put it all in, and
great.
The music comes on, it fades out. The conversation's already in progress, and people seem to love that, man. They're like, "Hey, you don't have a professional intro or nothing." I'm like, "No, this is all natural, man. That's how we do it."
Yeah, I love it, and it has been. I've never talked to you a day before in my life, and it's this has been just one heck of a conversation. I love it.
I love how all that works out, because that's every podcast I've done, with the exception of very few. I mean, like probably 3 or 4 out of 100+ episodes that I've done have been with people I've never spoken to before ever.
That's amazing. Yeah. But I've enjoyed it. I've loved talking to you. This has been great.
Definitely. We'll go for round 2 at some point in the future.
You let me know. I'm available tomorrow. Just holler. Let me know if you're bored or whatever. I'm just kidding. No.
I love it.
Yeah, we'll definitely chat. We'll definitely chat in the future. I look forward to it.
Sounds good, Jason. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Remember at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a little thing called Patreon? Well, I'd love to have you join me. But Gary, what is Patreon? It's a website that is helping small creators like me raise funds to further expand their creative visions. For as low as $1 a month, you can help me further my dream of reaching as many people as possible and eventually taking the show on the road to meet all these fine people face to face and add a video element to this podcast. If you were to donate $4 a month, you'd be hearing this show a few days earlier with no commercials and getting access to my close friends group on Instagram. Donate $10 a month and you get all that plus your name right at the beginning of the show alongside other producers. But act fast. That tier is limited to 10 people. I've got a whole lot more to offer, and you can get all the details over at patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for checking out the show, and I'll talk to you again really soon. HardWorkAlwaysWins.com. It's more than just a clothing line. It's my mantra. I speak it, I wear it, I live it, and I'd love to have you join the Hard Work Squad. We're constantly adding new items to the store, including our brand new Future-ish hats, which come in a variety of colors, including camo. I mean, who doesn't like camo? We also just put our famous Splash logo in gold to match our OG logo, and there's so much more here. You just got to check it out. Here's the best part. Use the code PODCAST at checkout to take 10% off of your very first order and join the Hard Work Squad today.